Hey, this is Ben Solomon, and welcome to this episode of the Techno Leadership Show. In this episode, we're going to go a little bit more deeper into the DISC system for looking at psychometrics and your personality type, and looking at your strengths and weaknesses and how you can build skills to mitigate weaknesses and how you can utilize and leverage your strengths in your career, in your life, and all those aspects. Again, there are experts who go much more deeper into these aspects. So I would invite you to do the tests and then do some research on YouTube. There's a lot of videos that go into a lot of depth if you are a detail-oriented person. I will try to keep it as high level as possible while giving you just enough details that you can utilize this usefully and make a move with what you can do with the DISC system. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the strengths that are shown for each characteristic on Tony Robbins' website, which I recommend for doing the test because he does allow that to be used free and gives a good summary of the results that you can utilize to build up your career, build up an understanding of your strengths and weaknesses and how it shows up in real life. So without any further ado, let's go into here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Cool, so here we are on Tony Robbins' website. TonyRobbins.com/DISC is where you need to go to see this page, and you can do your test from up here. So basically, the DISC system is broken into 4 bits, which is dominance, influence, conscientiousness, and steadiness. So what it does is look at your characteristics to see what's your more dominant characteristic, then the second most dominant, and then the trailing characteristics. So in my case, I'll show you my result down here, but before that, let me go through this. So if you're high in dominance, you tend to be very direct, you tend to be very results oriented, very decisive, fairly competitive, and a problem solver. These are all positive in one respect, but from another respect, they can also be negatives. Imagine if you're a manager and one of your team members is having issues. Where this can undo you is when you get too straight and say, hey, get to the point, give me the, what do I call it? Give me the numbers or give me the exact point that you're talking about. But when someone's in an emotional state and they're struggling with something, they need empathy. And when you know for a fact that this is your dominant factor, you know that you have a tendency to go straight there for the jugular, so to speak. So you need to be more conscious when someone comes to you and needs your support, help, in some sense coaching, because when someone in your team is coming to you asking for help, in some cases, yes, they could come to you asking you to solve the problem for them, which is counterproductive. But rather than going too direct, too bottom line focused, it's best to just step back. And that's where, when you know that this is the case, you can consciously go, fair enough. So what exactly are you dealing with? What is leading to the result that you're talking about? And then you can step back and help them. And we've got to be empathic as leaders to be able to lead effectively. Yes, there still are leaders out there who are brash and domineering and all that. But I personally believe that style of leadership is coming to an end. It is going to go down the way of the dinosaur. And having all these tools in our hands means we can understand what our inclinations are and put in skills and methodologies to prevent us from overstepping on our strengths, because sometimes when you go too far into our strengths, it can potentially be a weakness. So as much as you're someone who's direct, who needs direct information, who's very results oriented and decisive, your team members might be a lot more analytical, precise, and objective. So for them, when they transfer what their findings are to you, they tend to give you a lot of details, a lot of analysis on what they've done. And they are very detail oriented, which means they feel like they have to give you all the details so that you get the full picture. And there is a good case for that. And they're fairly objective, so it can be that. Or you might have team members who are stronger on steadiness with a secondary highness of conscientiousness, which means they are more relating and look at it from a team player's perspective. They tend to have patience, so they expect patience. So whatever is our dominant form, we also tend to expect that in some sense from others that we are working with. So if you've got a team and if you actually understand what their strengths are, it helps you lead them much better. You can actually step in their shoes, so to speak, and understand where they're coming from and actually be more effective. And so next thing, if you're higher on the influence, you're also a big picture thinker. You tend to be more promotive, which means you can talk, you can sell, you can inspire, but sometimes you come across to these people, especially the S and Cs, you come across as being full of hot air because of the fact, not because of anything that's wrong with you character strength was, but because you miss details, you have a tendency to overpromise. So to protect yourself from the weak sides of that, work with team members who are stronger on the C and S to get the details before you do any of the promising to upper management or to clients or whatever it might be. There's a higher likelihood for salespeople to have I as the front runner with D as a follower, or vice versa as well. And a lot of people who are in leadership positions tend to be high Ds with either trailing I or everything else being fairly low and D being very high. So those are things to look out for if you're high in Ds or high in Is. All have their positives, but they all have their negatives as well. So you've got to look at it from that perspective. And if you're high in steadiness, you're a team player, you seek understanding, you try to be patient, and you work with people, and you're very sincere in how you protect and how you show empathy and all of that. But that also has a tendency to elongate things, and in times you might not have the decisiveness to be able to manage conflict. You may not be able to, manage some of your staff and actually make them understand that they've not lived up to certain expectations that were set. So all of these things may mean like you are treated like a doormat. So if you're in a leadership position with S as your high point, always be careful, like trust your team, but also verify. So yeah, if you're a leader who's got S as your high point, always be aware of that. And at times you might have to, show decisiveness in how you deal with people, in how you deal with situations. But use the strengths of your, understanding and empathy and team player that you have. Now, if you're higher in the C, You tend to be more diplomatic because you don't like conflict. That's just not you. You may not even normally want to be leading people. You just want to get there, get the job done, and do your best work. And in that sort of sense, you're the kind of person who is an amazing engineer, amazing technical professional, because you're very analytical. You're diplomatic in how you deal with people and how you come across, and you're very precise, which means systems get implemented well. You have really good attention to detail, and you ensure, like, compliant is you're working within a team, within certain guidelines, within all of that is given without challenging everything. So you have a tendency to prosper in a bigger team where you have certain focuses, and also in bureaucratic environments where change is slower. So that's one thing to look at. And then you're very objective. So if you're in a C and you're in a leadership position like an IT manager, IT operations manager, director of technology, whatever it might be, you need to cultivate the ability to tell stories and bring in some of the characteristics of influence, which is, storytelling, something that all of us can learn, and convert the objectiveness into narratives that people can understand and align with. So none of these is, something that condemns you to a certain existence, but rather they're all tools that you can use to look at how you best operate and how your team members operate and how you can interface between them to achieve a common vision, goal, outcome. So that's basically going through the system. If you go to Tony Robbins' website, there is this, and if you do the test, you get a summary with enough information for you to be able to go ahead. So I'll go to this website here, which I find really handy. So it's axiomsoftware.com/disc/interpretations. So, or you can try discuss and then do DISC profile interpretations, and I'll put the link in YouTube so that you can go and have a look. They have pretty good explanations of all aspects of each of these. Yeah, so this website is a really good resource you can have a look at. I'm not sure how much I can show as part of a video, which is why I'm just showing you the website so you can go and get even more information. But going through my result, this is pretty much it. So natural and adaptive styles. Natural styles, what your true style is, and it's also the style we turn to when we're under stress or under pressure. And then actually working in this manner, working with your strengths, you tend to reduce the amount of psychological stress that you have. And then adaptive stress is a style is where you behave when someone's observing you or when you're under stress. So in this case, you can see very high in the D, fairly high in I, which is good, and then S and C are about midway-ish. So which means I can have a tendency to be too bossy and all that sort of thing. So I've had to be very conscious in how I behave as a leader, how I behave with team members, how I behave with other people in my life. And it's always, you're building skills, you're building communication skills, you're building empathy, you're building all of those sort of skills to ensure that you don't fall into the traps of, the D's style. So basically that has helped me to become more of what I would call a coach leader. So I depend on coaching my team members rather than directing them and telling them this is what you have to do. I'd rather coach them, give them autonomy and freedom to make decisions as long as they comply with governance frameworks that we have and other frameworks that we have for operation. Having higher I has benefited me, so I can be that coach leader a bit more naturally. But even if you have lower, this is where you can see when I'm under pressure or when I'm being observed, I have a tendency to behave fully up there, where I need to consciously go, now this is my natural tendency. I'm actually going to coach and lead my staff so that they can do the best work rather than me directing them. All I have to do is trust them to do their job, give them the tools, unblock all the things in their pathway, and allow them to get the job done the way that is best from their skill set. And I'm fairly low on this, but about midpoint-ish, so I can do detail work, I can do teamwork, which is good. But these are my core strengths up there, and with that obviously comes the weaknesses that I mentioned, where I have put in strategies in my own life to overcome that. And in a similar way, looking at wherever you are, you'll have to look at what your strengths are and what the potential weaknesses of those strengths are, and then work with that. So hopefully I've given you some useful information around DISC. There are a lot of videos and a lot of information on the internet that you can look at to get even more depth around your styles, and hopefully it'll help you mitigate any weaknesses that you have around that as well. Thank you for watching this episode. I wish you all the best in your career journey from technology professional into technology management and leadership, and in your life as well. So take care, and if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, if you like the content, please do hit the subscribe button for to get notified of future episodes. And I look forward to talking to you in a future episode. Take care. Have a good one.